fellowship breakfast, and we were talking about gratitude. And so we were all just kind of sharing different things that's happened to us over the course of this year that we can thank God for. And I was sharing with the gentlemen that were sort of around me that there's been several ups and downs that have been happening in the life of my family. About a week after Father's Day, after we had the opportunity for, me, my brother, my dad to be there at the same time with our new baby, about a week later, my sister found my dad unresponsive in his car. And so they had to call EMS, and this is literally like less than 7 days after Father's Day, after we'd all been together. And he ended up in the ICU and intubated, unresponsive. And that, I think it was like a Saturday. That Sunday I drove to Baltimore, and while I was there, he woke up. He actually tried to pull out his breathing tube. And so I was so excited that I actually was there when he woke up, and he talked to me, and I was like, okay, this is great. Came back to Culpeper, and we thought he was just going to be monitored for a couple more days and would get discharged home. The following evening, I think that Monday night, he had a seizure and ended up reintubated and was in that state for another 5 months. So from June until probably around sometime in August, I was driving every time I had a day off. I was going to Maryland to see my father. He ended up getting a trach because he was intubated for so long. He ended up having to have a G-tube placed. Watch him lose a significant amount of weight because he was just sort of being fed through an IV. And so it was a really distressing time. We had kind of asked for prayers for some of our close church family here. And the doctors had essentially said he was sort of in a vegetative comatose state, and they expected at some point he would likely recover, but they couldn't give us any kind of specific time frame, and it may be months before that would actually occur. And so it was really, really difficult because me and my wife had a new baby at home, and it was really hard for me to try to process that this child that we had been waiting for, that my father had been waiting for, his grandson that he finally got to hold, that there would be a chance that he may never wake up and never get to hold him again. And so it was really hard for me to continue to be working and coming to church and stay encouraged when I knew what was happening with my dad. That was something that we had no kind of control over. And so, God moved, and, my father slowly started to kind of regain consciousness. And he, one day we came in and he was just sort of awake. And he actually self-extubated, so he took out his own, trach. And thankfully he was able to be released from the hospital. He spent several months in rehab because he had lost so much muscle tone. He had to sort of essentially relearn how to walk. But praise to God, he was actually able to go home before Thanksgiving. We were able to visit him. He's walking around, and he's been able to hold his grandson again. And so we've just been thankful for that blessing that, even though we don't understand exactly why everything happened in June and why we had to kind of go through this whole process, we know that God is faithful, and that he's always able to bring us out of situations, that we find ourselves in, as long as we continue to pray and trust in him. And, another thing too that was happening sort of at the same time, I've been out of graduate school for several years, and it's a costly thing to go to medical school. And so I've been paying a significant amount of student loans for over a decade since I've been back. But since we've been in this area, my employer is a nonprofit, and all around the country there's a loan repayment program where if you work for a nonprofit organization, and you make your consistent payments after about a decade, whatever is left over in federal loans can be forgiven. And so probably about a week after our baby was born, I'm already thinking about, okay, in 18 years, I'm going to have to be funding some kind of college education. I'm still paying on student loans myself, so hopefully I won't have to be consolidating his loans with mine in another 18 years. And I applied for the loan forgiveness, and the remaining balance of my federal student loans were completely forgiven. And so a week after we gave birth to this new baby that was going to be coming with new expenses, my student loans were forgiven. You know, we went through this difficult time with my father, and he was able to come out of it on the other side. And so I'm just thankful for this year. That 2023 has been challenging, but there's been a lot of blessing that has come with it. It's challenged our faith, but we know that God is faithful. And so I just want to encourage you guys that, you know, life comes with ups and downs, and there are going to be times when we're in the valleys. There are going to be times where we're on the mountaintops, but always God is with us during all those times, regardless of whether or not you feel that he's there. As long as you're calling on him and trusting in him, then you don't have to worry. Okay?
Amen.